How many mornings have you woken up, stared at the clock, and sighed? Another day, back to the office, waiting for the end of the month just to get paid. You rush out the door, blend into the crowd, sit back at your desk, day after day. Endless meetings, endless emails, the same tasks on repeat until you're exhausted. And at night, when you come home, all you can do is lie down, scroll your phone for a few minutes, and drift into heavy sleep, only to wake up and do it all over again. How many times have you asked yourself, what am I really living for? Does this job truly make me happy? Or am I just existing to pay the bills, take care of my family, and wait for a rare day off? Deep down, you already know, this isn't the work you love. But there are 100 reasons you can't walk away. Next month's rent, the unpaid debt, the people who depend on you. So you grit your teeth and keep going. Yet with each passing day, the emptiness grows. Think about it. If life keeps going like this, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what will you have left besides exhaustion and a life that feels meaningless? That fear, not of failure, not of poverty, but of living a long life and, in the end, not even knowing whether you truly lived or merely existed, or what real joy ever was. And yet there is a 90-year-old woman who lived through war, loss, and decades of work she didn't choose. And when she looks back, she can smile and say, "My life, no regrets." Her name is Nakamura Tsuneko, the oldest practicing psychologist in Japan, author of The Worth of Life. Today, we'll listen to 90 years of her experience to discover how each of our days, and no matter how ordinary, can still be truly meaningful. This is Juliana Gray, a space where we explore life's quiet philosophies together, so you no longer have to sigh each morning, but instead begin learning how to value your own life. Working for money is not wrong. Have you ever felt ashamed for thinking, I'm only working for the money? The truth is, working to earn a living has never been something to be ashamed of. It's one of the most fundamental instincts of being human, to survive, to care for ourselves, and for the people we love. Yet many of us make ourselves miserable by repeating the same question over and over. I don't love my job. I'm just doing it for the paycheck. Does that mean my life is meaningless? But it's those thoughts, not the job itself, that quietly drain you day after day. As the author of The Worth of Life, Nakamura Tsuneko once shared, her own life is living proof. When she was young, she didn't choose her profession out of passion. The only path that could save her from early marriage and hard labor was to become a psychologist. She didn't take that chance out of love for the job, but simply out of the desire to study, to live, to have a choice. Years later, she too struggled, feeling that her work didn't truly belong to her. But then she realized, what makes us suffer isn't the work itself, it's the way we think about it. If you label your current job as not right for me, or not my passion, then every day at work will feel like punishment. But if you gently accept, I'm working to survive, to support my family, to keep a peaceful home, you'll notice that the burden becomes much lighter. In reality, very few people ever find a job that perfectly aligns with their big dream. The odds are as rare as winning the lottery. Most of us start with jobs we don't love, simply to earn enough to get by. And as Dr. Tsuneko reminds us, working for money isn't wrong. It's the foundation that allows us to keep living, keep experiencing, and keep searching for true meaning. Through more than 70 years of listening to her patients, she met countless people who complained, I hate my job. It's killing me. But what they truly hated wasn't the job. It was their inability to make peace with themselves. They expected too much, to be fulfilled by work, to be fueled by passion, to be handed a perfect choice by life itself. And it was those very expectations that dragged them into disappointment. So perhaps it's time to let go of some of those expectations. Allow yourself a simpler reason. I work to live. I work for the people I love. And that alone is enough. When you stop resenting your job, you'll have more energy left to truly live, to love your family, to care for your health, to keep your mind at peace. Remember this: only when you stop seeing your work as a chain will you have the strength to live freely. And that's when you'll realize even an ordinary life can still be deeply worthwhile. Sometimes, you have to walk away. There are jobs that are simply not worth the cost of your health and your spirit. So why are you still staying? Do you recognize yourself in this picture? Waking up each morning with your heart racing from anxiety, your hands moving on autopilot to get ready for work. Coming home at night completely drained, collapsing into bed while your mind still spins with unanswered emails and your boss's harsh words. Some people fall asleep right at their desks, yet still drag themselves up the next morning like a machine, the body exhausted, the mind worn thin, and still too afraid to stop. Why? Because the fear is too great. Fear of losing income, fear of not being able to support your family, fear that no one will hire you if you leave, fear of a future that feels like a blank void. And so we lock ourselves into a prison of our own making, letting work slowly drain our strength and suffocate our souls. We're not really bound by our jobs. We're bound by our own fear. When that fear goes unacknowledged, it turns work, which should only ever be a tool for living, into an invisible chain that tightens around our entire life. If you're not yet prepared, then for now, accept your current situation with a lighter heart. But if you've built up skills, savings, and the readiness to take responsibility for your next step, then be brave enough to leave. Because sometimes, letting go is the only way to save yourself. Remember this: work is only one part of life. It can provide income and stability, but it should never cost you your health, steal your youth, or harden your soul. If a job makes you wake up in fear every morning, if it drains you to the point where you can no longer feel joy, then it's no longer just a job, it's a burden. And no burden is worth sacrificing your whole life for. So pause and ask yourself, am I living to work or working to live? The answer to that question will determine whether you're holding your life in your own hands or have already surrendered it to invisible chains. And sometimes one decisive act, walking away from what no longer deserves you, is what it takes to reclaim the peace you truly deserve. Stop forcing yourself. Learn to let go. After years of pushing ourselves, clinging to things that no longer deserve us, we end up exhausted. But maybe the solution isn't always to push harder. Maybe it's to learn how to loosen our grip. The more you struggle, the faster you sink. The more you let go, the more you float. Imagine falling into water. Your first instinct is to flail, to fight, to resist. But the harder you fight, the heavier the water feels, and the faster you go under. Only when you stop resisting, when you let your body rise naturally, do you begin to breathe again. Life works the same way. Since childhood, we've been taught, work harder, try harder, push yourself more. That's how you succeed. So we run, we grind, we fight against every wave of pressure. But the more we push, the more we wear ourselves down. The more we force ourselves to be strong, the weaker we feel. The more we compare ourselves to others, the more we feel we'll never be enough, as the wise psychologist Nakamura Tsuneko observed across her 90 years of life. She had seen far too many people destroy themselves in this endless struggle to prove their worth. Some appeared successful, wealthy, admired, yet couldn't sleep at night under the weight of their own pressure. Others looked strong, but one small setback was enough to break them, because they had lived too long in constant tension. Life doesn't always need you to fight. Sometimes it just needs you to know when to stop, to realize there are currents you cannot swim against, that some expectations, if held too tightly, will only pull you deeper down. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, being weak, or quitting. Letting go is a different way of living. It's when you dare to release the need to look perfect in other people's eyes. When you stop forcing yourself to be smarter, richer, or faster than everyone else. It's when you finally accept that sometimes enough is already more than enough. Even a small branch drifting with the river can travel thousands of miles. True strength isn't always in tensed muscles or relentless effort, but in flowing with life's natural rhythm. So ask yourself, are you truly living your own life? Or just forcing yourself to live someone else's? If you keep pushing just to be approved, not compared, or to meet some imagined ideal, one day you'll collapse. And when that day comes, you'll realize no one remembers how hard you tried, but you've already spent your youth and health on it. Real success doesn't always come from striving to the limit. Sometimes it comes from gentleness, from one slower breath, one unhurried step, one moment when you finally release what no longer matters. And in that stillness, you'll see, life never asked you to be perfect. It only asked you to live truly, with a peaceful heart. Let go of expectations. Once you've learned to loosen your grip, you'll begin to notice another weight that's been quietly pressing down on your shoulders all along. Expectation. Expectation is the heaviest burden we carry. It doesn't sit on your back like a visible backpack, yet it silently presses against your heart, draining you more than any job ever could. From a young age, we were taught to strive, to achieve more, to become more. And so, as we grow, we load ourselves with invisible demands. To succeed in our careers, to make our families proud, to build a perfect marriage, to raise flawless children. But the higher our expectations, the deeper our disappointments, because life rarely follows the script we've written in our minds. As the psychologist Nakamura Sunako once shared, even her own marriage was not what she had hoped for. At first, she suffered deeply, blaming, resenting, feeling trapped in a life she hadn't chosen. But one day she told herself, if he can simply stand beside me at our children's wedding, that will be enough. And at that very moment, when she lowered her expectations to the simplest form, her heart grew lighter, and she could finally move forward. You see, the higher we expect, the harder we fall. We expect ourselves to be better, richer, faster than others, and end up feeling never enough. We expect our parents to always understand us, and feel hurt when they don't. We expect our partners or children to live the way we wish, and feel disappointed when they choose differently. But the more we cling to expectations, the more we become slaves to them, like carrying a backpack full of stones. The farther you walk, the heavier it becomes. The harder you try, the more it wears you down. Only when you dare to set it down can you finally breathe freely. Letting go of expectations doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting human limits. Accepting that life doesn't have to be perfect to be worthwhile. When you learn to expect less, your heart becomes lighter. When you stop comparing, stop demanding, stop expecting the world to bend to your will, you'll suddenly see life has always been precious. And in that moment, the world and your heart will finally feel lighter. Everything has worth. Everything that happens, whether bitter or sweet, is a gift from life. If you look back, you'll see we've just walked through a journey together. We've learned that working for money isn't shameful. It's the foundation that allows us to live. We've seen that sometimes it takes courage to walk away, rather than let work become a chain that binds us. We've realized that effort is necessary, but overexertion only drains us. Sometimes it's letting go that helps us go farther. And we've come to understand that lowering our expectations of others, of life, is how we unlock a truly free heart. When all those pieces come together, a simple yet profound truth appears. Life doesn't need to be perfect to be worth living. It is valuable because of every moment, the joy and the sorrow, the success and the failure, all shaping us, refining us, and teaching us how to live more deeply. As the 90-year-old psychologist Nakamura Sunako said, her life had no shortage of pain, disappointment, or small joys. She didn't live a glamorous life, yet when she looked back, she could smile and say, "I have no regrets." Because she understood that it was the imperfections, the wounds and the stumbles that made her life complete. And the same is true for you. You don't need to wait for success, status, or recognition to feel that your life has meaning. Every experience, every pain, every quiet joy in the present moment, all of them are silently weaving the one and only story called you. Be grateful for the weary days. They teach you resilience. Be grateful for disappointment. It reminds you to release unnecessary expectations. Be grateful for peaceful moments. They nurture your heart. And even be grateful for loss, because it teaches you to cherish what you still have. Imagine this. One day, when you're 80 or 90 years old, sitting quietly and looking back at your life, what will come to mind? The days you spent working endlessly, feeling empty inside? The mornings you woke up just to wait for the next paycheck? Or those small but peaceful moments? A family meal, an afternoon walk, a single instant when you dared to be true to yourself? In the final moments, money, titles, and the endless race with others will fade away. What remains is only one question. Did I live a life that was truly worthwhile? And the answer: you can begin writing it today by learning to treasure each ordinary day, no matter how simple it may seem. If in these stories, you've caught a glimpse of yourself, those tired mornings, those long days working just for a paycheck, those sleepless nights wondering what your life is really about, then believe me, you are not alone. There are countless others out there wrestling with the same exhaustion, the same quiet ache. And that's exactly why we need to pause, to learn how to see life through different eyes. Each week, let's sit down together and open another page of a book. Not to chase distant dreams of success, but to learn how to slow down, to live more deeply, and to live a life that truly feels worthwhile. Because when we learn to be grateful for both joy and sorrow, for both success and failure, we begin to realize that everything that happens, sweet or bitter, is still a gift, shaping a more complete life. You don't have to wait until you've achieved success, status, or recognition to feel that your life is meaningful. You can begin today, right in this very moment. A new journey toward peace, wholeness, and a life without regret. And if you'd like to keep walking this path together, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might be searching for a quiet space for their soul. Because sometimes, just one small act of sharing is enough to help someone remember that this human world has always been beautiful, and this life, truly, is worth living.